Hello everyone, thanks for joining today's One Pose a Day for 100 Days. Today we're going to learn wide leg forward fold. It's a great pose for opening up the backs of the legs and stretching the spine and hinging at your hips. So let's get started. We can use an optional chair, I'll demonstrate that, or blocks. And both of those help to raise up the floor so we can keep a nice neutral spine. So we'll demonstrate that. And please do whatever works for you. Remember, poses are your friends. Let's get started. Start in your nice mountain pose. And for everyone, that's Tiberius. He likes to join. Start in your mountain pose. Feel your feet nice and grounded, standing tall. Let's take a couple of nice arriving breaths. Take your arms out to the side, taking a nice inhale, palms overhead. Exhale, lowering. Let's add the head, raise and look up towards the hands. Exhaling, chin to chest. Letting yourself arrive to your one pose practice today. Let everything else outside go. Let's take our palms overhead as you exhale. Bring the palms together and down. All right. Let me demonstrate first, and then we'll work through the practice together, holding the poses to allow our body to open up. So if you're using a chair, we'll bring the chair to the long edge of your mat with two of the legs on your mat just to help keep it nice and stable. Couple options. We are going to come down with our hands on the chair, and then just to demonstrate from the side, we want to keep our back nice and neutral, so keeping the nice natural curves. If you find that reaching for the chair seat even still is hard to reach, you either have to bend your knees or round your spine, use your blocks and lift the chair even a little bit higher and take your feet wide. Since I'm here from the side, you want to think about your hips being right in alignment with your ankles. So sometimes we're more leaning forward into the balls of our feet or our toes. Think of your hips pressing back. You'll feel the weight a little bit more in your heels and the center of the ball of the foot. All right, so if we're using the chair, maybe hands can be on the chair seat. Nice long arms to start. Taking the feet just as wide as comfortable with those inner blades of your feet parallel to each other. As we all practice together, in this case, as my legs start to warm up, I can bend my elbows back in towards my body, hinging at the hips. Remember to keep the hips pressing back in line with your ankles, letting my chest float over the chair seat. When we find the edge of our stretch, this is where blocks can be nice and handy. I can bring my elbows, my forearms onto the blocks. Try not to just collapse the chest. Press the arms down into the blocks. Draw the shoulders away from the ears. Allow your gaze to be just at the back of the chair seat so that our spine is nice and long, and I'm energetically lifting the front of my body slightly up. Remember, try not to let the back hunch. Let the shoulders draw back, and we'll stay there and breathe. So that's a chair and block option. I'm going to take the chair off to the side now. Now we can use blocks again to raise up the floor, just to allow our spine to be nice and elongated. So I'll take the blocks, the middle of the mat, about shoulder distance apart, hands on hips. So just watch for a minute, then we'll all come into our own version together. Take the feet wide, and then as I hinge at my hips, let my chest float forward, and see, maybe I find the blocks right here. You can always start with blocks, and then as the legs, the body starts to open, I can bring the blocks down. So I'll turn to the side again. So here we are, blocks right under my shoulders to start. Feet hip distance, or feet are wide, and I let my hips come back in alignment with my ankles. Start with the blocks right under your shoulders. And then as we feel like, you want to feel a nice sensation of opening and stretch the back of the legs. So if we don't feel it, start to lower the blocks. Pause there, lower again. And now just noticing, you want to keep that spine nice and elongated. Try not to let the head drop. Keep your gaze just right down at the floor. And then as available, you bring the hands down to the floor. So just watching from the side here, I bring my hands right under my chest and I pause there. And that's where you can move your blocks. Keep the shoulders releasing back away from the ears. Breathing into this as the body opens. We're going to bend the elbows back towards the legs, right in line with your shoulders, hinging at the hips. So again, if you have to bend your knees or you're rounding your back, come back up to the blocks or even the chair, right? We want a long spine, hinging at your hips. Imagine your tailbone lifting and pointing up towards the ceiling behind you slightly. And then when we get there, as long as you don't suffer from vertigo or get dizzy easily, you can let the crown of the head release, gazing back through your legs. And then we'll hold there and take some nice breaths together. So now that we've all seen the pose, let's come into it together, either using the chair and the blocks, or let's start with blocks right in the middle of your mat, just at the edge, and stepping just slightly back to the opposite edge. We'll start in mountain pose. Let's take the hands on the hips, roll those shoulders back, chest nice and open, step your feet wide. You can even just start to shimmy a little bit wider if the inner thighs allow. Turning the toes to face that long edge of your mat away from you so the inner blades of your feet are parallel. Find the shoulders stacked right over your hips. And then we'll start to hinge at the hips so you can bring your hands right into those hip creases, pressing the hips back. Let your chest start to float forward. Imagine a 90-degree angle. Keeping your gaze just downward at the floor. Don't look at the screen any longer. We'll walk us through it. Hands on the blocks. Start with the hands right under your shoulders. If your hands are on the chair, they're still under your shoulders. And think about the hips slightly pressing back so you feel the weight in the ball of the foot and the center of the heel. You could even look a little bit to the side to get an idea. Remember not to hyperextend your knees, so have a tiny little bend, softness in the knees. Ground those feet down. Now, as available, start to bend your elbows back in towards your body. Allow the chest to float down as you hinge at your hips. Pause again once you feel that edge of the stretch where your body wants to stop. Breathe into that. As we hold poses statically, we want to extend or think about extending our exhales longer than the inhales. So we'll inhale, maybe a count of 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale out, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you feel like you could get a little bit lower, maybe lower the blocks or hands on the floor right under the chest. So bring the blocks or hands under the chest, elbows pointing backwards. Keep your gaze straight down at the floor. Continuing as you bend the elbows, let your chest float towards the floor or towards your thighs. Again, as long as you don't suffer vertigo or getting dizzy very easily, allow the crown of the head to drop towards the floor. If you do suffer any dizziness or vertigo, keep your gaze looking forward on the floor ahead of you, a little bit higher in your stance. Now come back to those extended breaths. If you can increase your exhale up to a count of 8. Allowing the body to soften into our forward folds. Feeling now the sensation of stretch. Back of the legs or the spine. Letting the head be soft and heavy. Allowing a little traction in the neck. Let's take 3 more.
Nice full breaths. It's good to hold these static poses where we want to increase our flexibility for maybe at least 90 seconds, up to 5 minutes, but take your time to do that, keeping that nice sense of grounding in your feet. And then one more nice full breath. Now slowly walk the hands under the shoulders, press the arms long, roll the shoulders back, and gaze forward at the chair or the floor ahead of you. You can use the blocks again to rise back up, slowly taking our time just so we're not rushing up. We want to let the blood slowly come back out of the head, so coming either to high blocks or long arms pressing the chair seat if you're using it. If you're using the floor and the blocks, now let's bring the hands into the hip creases and press into the hips. Lengthen your spine and slowly rise all the way up to standing. Pause there. Gently heel toe your feet together and then step your feet together, finding that nice mountain pose. Such a great way to open the backs of the legs, give a nice stretch down the spine. So I hope you'll give it a try at home. Use your props. Props are your friends. Let's take our nice closing breath, inhaling arms wide and palms overhead. Exhale, draw your palms together and down. I thank you for joining this one pose practice today. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you tomorrow.